Okay, welcome back. So in the at the end of the previous tutorial, I was having difficulty having this icon display here, getting the error could not resolve blah blah blah, and it wasn't displaying in the preview. I tested it on my phone and it's working fine. So hopefully you aren't getting that error. If you are, I would just ignore it. Um, it's difficult enough for me when my IDE works properly to do a good tutorial, so I don't need shit like that going on. But anyways, we're just going to move on. It should work fine when we actually test it. So now we're going to get into coding our adapter. Obviously, we'll be making quite a few adjustments to it. So the first thing that we're going to do is add an Onclicklistener to our view holder. Now, this is going to get slightly complicated, at least it was to me the first time I did this. We're going to be adding a view Onclicklistener to our view holder, as I just said, and then assign it to several of our views in the list item layout. And then we're also going to add an interface for our RecyclerView adapter, which is going to communicate with our list activity. So that'll hopefully make more sense in code. But basically what we're doing is it's basically the same. We're kind of using two interfaces, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So, yep. Anyways, we'll head down to derp holder and type in implements view.onclicklistener. Just the standard Onclicklistener is totally fine. And then we'll implement that method down there, onClick. And we're also going to need to add the views that we added to our layout, if you recall. So we'll make a second text view called subtitle. I'm going to change this to thumbnail, the first text view. And then I'll just copy and paste that. And we'll call this one secondary icon, just to be obnoxiously specific about it. Oops. Oh no, that's not what I wanted you to do. And my ID is doing weird things, so we'll call this one subtitle, of course. And LBL, I can't remember what I named this, but luckily I have good nomenclature, so that doesn't matter. That is, of course, now thumbnail. And that should still be item icon. And what do we call this one? Icon secondary. Good. Oh, that's secondary icon. So we're going to assign two OnClick listeners here. One for the secondary icon. So we just say secondary icon dot set OnClick listener this. And then we'll also do that for our container. And we'll see why this is important kind of later on. What am I doing here? Sorry. Container, I can't bloody well type anything. Set Onclicklistener this. Okay. So we've attached both of these views to our Onclicklistener. And we're just going to head down here and say int id. Let me just make sure I'm doing this right. No, we don't even need to make a variable. If v.getID, so that grabs the whatever you call it, the oh come on, brain, the resource ID of this view, view.getID, equals r.id.containerItemRoot. So all that's saying there is if the view's ID, basically if the view is container, do this, otherwise do that, and we'll handle this and that later on. So that's pretty much all the changes we need to make for now in the derp holder class. We're going to need to update onBind view holder a little bit here. I'm just going to copy and paste this stuff in and not bother typing out the entire thing just to save a bit of time, and then we'll just talk you through it. Okay, so all we're doing is, of course, we're setting the subtitle the same as not the same, but in the same method as which we were setting the title in the previous tutorial. Our avatar icon is just staying the same, so we're leaving that. And then for the secondary icon, we check item.isFavorite, so we check if the item is a favorite. If it is a favorite, then we say we set the image resource to the solid black star. If it isn't a favorite, we set it to the black border, and we'll kind of see how that gets handled later on. The next thing we need to do is add a new interface to our derp adapter class. So what we do, and if you're not too familiar with interfaces, I just want to take a moment here. If you're not super familiar with interfaces, basically all we're trying to do here is our interface is going to allow us to communicate with the activity without our derp adapter class having to hold the activity in memory, which just is strongly coupled and something that we don't really want to bother doing. So basically it's just like a communication channel. That isn't the definition of an interface, but for the purposes of this tutorial it will hopefully at least give you an idea of what we're doing. We're going to call this interface item click callback. Item click callback. Thank you, autocomplete. I was waiting for that. And then we just say public interface item click callback. And we're going to give this interface two methods. Say void on item click int p. I'll explain what int p is in a minute. So onItemClick is going to fire whenever the user clicks anything other than the secondary icon. And then our other method is onSecondary icon click, again with int p. And then we also need a method to set the interface. So we just say public void set item click callback, and final item click callback, item click callback, blah blah blah. This dot item click callback equals item. Okay, and we're going to be calling that method in the activity class, so that's all that's going on there. Okay, so what isn't P? We'll go and handle this down here. So if the user clicks the container, then I'm just going to consider that as kind of a standard, just a standard click on the recycler view. So we're going to call item click callback. Let me just make sure I'm doing that properly. Item click callback on item on item click. God, I can't type today. And int p is just going to be get adapter position. So what this method does is it basically just gets the position of the clicked item in the list that was supplied to the adapter, or possibly just the just the position of the item. Sorry, let me just drink some water. Voice is a little raspy already. So it just gets the position of the item that was clicked. We're also going to say item, not U10, item click callback on secondary icon click, and again get adapter position is fine. So all this code is saying is if the container was clicked sorry, if the container was clicked, then fire on item click. If the secondary icon is clicked, which is the only other thing that I've registered an Onclicklistener to, then we call on secondary icon click. So I think Yep, that's everything we need to do in derp adapter. Open up list activity, and just let me get to my place in my notes here. So we're going to need to do a few things here. For starters, we'll go ahead and implement that interface that we created in derp adapter. Specifically, we're going to be implementing derp adapter.item click callback. So derp adapter.item click callback. It's going to ask you if you want to implement the methods. Go ahead and do that. Implement both. We're going to need to add a couple static strings here just as keys. I'm just going to copy and paste those in. You can pause the video or copy and paste it from the tutorial. And we'll see what those do in a minute. They're just for bundle extras. Let's see. We're going to make some changes to how we handle the handle derp data. So initially I just called this static method and passed it into our adapter. We're actually going to make a variable array list. Why is that showing up? I don't know. Private array list data. And we're just going to say list data equals derp data dot get list data. And we need to cast that, I guess. Okay. And instead of passing in that static method here, we're just going to pass in list data. So the reason why I've changed that is we're going to be making some changes on the fly to list data, and it's now necessary to have it as a persisted object instead of just a static method. So that's all that's going on there. We're also going to set, let's see here, adapter dot set item click callback this. So all that's doing is our activity is saying to the adapter, when item click callback is fired, I'll handle this shit, basically. And yeah. So anything else? We're going to be handling two different methods here, of course. Okay, so when onItemClick is called, we'll just grab a reference to the list item that is associated with its position in our list data. Let me just type it out and I'll explain it hopefully a little better in a moment. Data dot get p. Okay, I'll just import these methods here. Yep. Okay, so if you recall, list data is the list that we passed into our derp adapter in the beginning. So when a corresponding element inside of derp adapter is clicked, a corresponding list view item, that position gets passed to our list activity, and it will correspond to the position of the data in our original list data class. So basically we're just getting the data associated with that position of the recycler view. If that doesn't make sense, and it sounds to me like I'm having a hard time explaining it, just wait for the when we run the app, and I think what I said will hopefully make more sense then. So we've got our list item. We're going to create a new intent. This, and then detail activity.class. We'll create a new bundle called extras. New bundle. We're going to put two variables into that bundle. Put string, and the first key is extra quote, and the value is going to be item.getTitle. If you recall correctly, title was the quote, of course. I'm just going to copy and paste that just to save a bit of time. Extra attr, that stands for attribution, and then we'll call get subtitle there, and that's the name of the person who wrote the quote. I.put extra, so this is just attaching the extra to the intent. Bundle extras, extras. And then we call start activity I. And that is basically all we need to do in our activity here. Now what I'll do is we'll handle onSecondary click later on. It's kind of an extra thing, so I thought I might as well just get the important stuff out of the way. If you want to see what we do with onSecondary icon click, that'll come towards the other part of the tutorial. For now we're just going to handle the detail activity. So go ahead and open up detail activity. And not a lot of magic is going on here. Copy and paste these keys here, these static keys. Paste them there. And we're just going to say bundle extras equals get intent dot get bundle extra bundle extras. We're not going to worry about checking if this is null or anything like that. And then we just say text view. We're going to need to cast this, so I'll just add an extra bracket there. Text view find view by ID r.id.lbl quote text dot set text, and then we say extras dot get, why is that showing up? I don't know. Get string extra quote. That's all that's going on there. Extra quote. So the double brackets just allows me to cast it to text view, which means I can just directly call set text without having to create a new variable, or assign a new variable, I should say. Whoa, why did it jump around? Hate it when it does that. And then this one is attribution, and then attr, and I think that's everything there. So the last thing we'll do, so you should be able to run the project at this point, and everything will respond as it should. What I'll do now is just handle onSecondary icon click. So we'll just jump back into list activity. So again, this is an optional step. I just thought I'd throw it in there because it's kind of a neat little thing. So we need to do two things here. I'm just going to copy and paste this in just to save time because this tutorial is getting pretty long. So once again, we grab a list item from the appropriate position in the list data. We check if the item is favorite. If it is favorite, we set it to false. If it isn't favorite, we set it to a favorite. We set it to true. And then we're going to call this method adapter.setListData, pass in the list data, and then adapter.notify data set changed. So I'm just going to jump back over to derp adapter, and we're just going to throw this extra method in here, set list data, and that's going to update our list view, our RecyclerView adapters data. So the last thing I wanted to mention, when you're updating a RecyclerView adapter and calling notify data set change, there are some very confusing things that can happen. And also, let's say for example, if you're parsing that data from a database or from the web, there's the potential to have errors or long-running operations occurring. So you want to be very careful. Since our data is just minuscule, I don't think there's any problem with just calling setListData and then calling notify data set change to update our RecyclerView in this instance. That's not always going to be the case in more complicated scenarios. Anyways, if you want a more complicated explanation, let me know in the comments section, and I can maybe touch on it later. But I just wanted to mention that so that hopefully people will flame me less, the people who actually know what they're doing. So, that's everything. We'll just jump over to the emulator and see if everything works. Okay, naturally I screwed something up. Everything else except for our secondary icon was working. In order to fix that, we're just going to type in, instead of passing list data, derp data.getListData. And I think the reason for that is this way we're passing in an equivalent copy instead of the list data itself and a whole bunch of stuff. And remember how I said that calling notified dataset changed can cause serious problems? Well, that's one example. But if you make that adjustment, then the secondary icon should now work, and it should change color when you click on it. So yep, now we'll jump into the emulator. Sorry about that. Okay, now that that's all done, we're just going to test out our little app here in the emulator. So we'll start by just checking out to see if the icons are working, and perfect. So each time we click one of the secondary icons, it changes the value in our data and updates the RecyclerView. RecyclerView is still moving properly. And let's see what happens when we click on RecyclerView Item. Okay. Loads the new activity and displays the appropriate data. Let's try a couple more items just to see if it's loading properly. There we are. Marcus Aurelius, there we go. Yep, everything seems to be working in order. It is a little bit clunky that we, or not clunky, but it's unfortunate that we have to use the back button all the time instead of an actual toolbar or something like that. But as I say, for the purpose of the tutorial, that's just kind of outside of the scope. So hopefully that tutorial was useful for you. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.